why we were doing so well. Good evening, everyone. I am your technical critic, and why? Oh my god, we were doing so well. This is such a good episode. Oh, I can't believe I just. That's the thing with Game of Thrones. Never let it trick you into thinking that everything is happy. You just go doot, 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 then right at the end, the last 10 minutes. Choo! Oh, Sansa, no! Why? We were doing so well. Even so, this is a 12 out of 12 episode. I do my rating scale not out of 10. That's too neat. You have to have out of 12 so you can ratchet things here, there, and everywhere. Even with the ending of this episode, just like killing you like that, especially if you're invested in Sansa's storyline like I am. The plot was pushed forward very well. Everyone who mattered, which means not Bronn and not Theon, got their day in the spotlight. We moved the story forward. We got a lot of nice emotional character development and relationships between many of the characters. So between Arya and the Hound, you see a nice bit of relationship begin to develop there. Between Podrick and Lady Brienne, you see the evolution of their relationship. Between just Tyrion, his brother, Bronn, and his champion, who I'm not going to talk about until the spoilers, you see all the dynamics that are working there. It's just, this is such a good episode. If you asked me, I mean, even the Red Woman and Stannis' wife, they had their little moment. And it was nice. It was nice to see. At no point are you ever bored by this episode. It manages to hold your attention throughout everything, and it was truly wonderful to watch, especially after the first 4 or 5 of these, where we just had creepiness and sexual assault and all this other just bad stuff happening. It really was truly wonderful to see this episode. So, in order to review it, I have to spoil it. So, spoiler stick is up. You know what that means. As I always say, what are you doing here? Go watch, come back, we'll have a nice discussion in the comments. I will answer some of the comments that came up last time, and we're gonna do it all. And I'm sorry and before I start, I have to say, I'm sorry I didn't make a review last week for the last episode. But it really is only fitting to put these two together. I tried to make a review. There was paper shredding and like noise and everything, and then by the time it got done, it was too late to post it. So you know what? We're gonna put them all together. We're gonna have a nice little powwow. We're gonna do it all up here, and we're gonna get through this, right? So spoiler stick is up. Go watch the episode. Come back. We're gonna have a great time. So we get Tyrion and his brother Jaime. We get the Hound and Arya. We get Podrick and Lady Brienne. We get the Red Woman and Stannis' wife, as I mentioned. We get Daenerys and Dario. Shh. And of course, we see the Mountain for the first time in ages. We get what is his name? I never remember his name. I only remember that he's of House Martell and from Dorne, and he wants to kill everybody. I just call him Sir Martell. So Lord Martell, he's in this, and no White Walkers. Even Jon Snow. Even Jon Snow pops up here and there. And quite frankly, we got exactly what we needed from Jon Snow. Quick little cameo, and then poof, he's gone, because his story is not really while integral to the overall world. Let's face it, Jon Snow's story is not particularly interesting. It's just him looking. Dead eyes, I will stare you to death. Which he did a lot of in this episode, despite in the 5 minutes he was on screen, he did a lot of dead eye staring and accepting of other people's judgments. So, where to begin? Tyrion and his brother hash out what happened in the last episode, where he basically lambastes him about the fact that he threw away the deal which Jaime made with Lord Tywin. For those of you who didn't watch the last episode, I don't feel bad about it, but basically, during the trial, everyone is lying and cheating and just saying all the worst things from... It's amazing what Cersei can do with just every single half-remembered grudge that she brought up. Even Lord Varys, who is supposed to be Tyrion's friend, everyone is throwing him underneath the ox cart, either to save their own skin, in the case of Varys, or to try and gain their position, like the head of the King's Guard, or just everyone. Shay pops up, and even she's testifying against him. I don't know what Cersei did to her in order to get her to say the thing she did, but wow, just the way that she turned on Tyrion, talking about everything. Oh man, that was so shameful. You really do feel for Tyrion in that last episode, and it carries right on into this one. So he's talking to his brother. He needs to find a champion. He's like, "Well, okay, who am I? Who's going to be fighting against me?" I speculated that it would be Jaime versus Tyrion. So, but let's face it, Tywin, he is far too smart for this. He knows that he can't possibly miss Jaime. Not one-handed, not left-handed Jaime in the middle of a feud like this. So. And he can't afford to let Tyrion win. So what is he going to do? He calls his old friend the Mountain. So the Mountain comes down, and you see the Mountain for the first time in a long while, and you see his face like outside of his armor and everything. So it's like, okay, so that's what the Mountain looks like. And it's just, wow, you see him he's just slaughtering people for the hell of it. It's just slaughter. It's very good. It really gives the Mountain his presence that he earned. So we find out that he's going to fight the Mountain. Of course, Tyrion calls Bronn. He's like, "Look, I need your help." Bronn walks in, brand new suit of clothes. He's like, "Yeah, you know how you said that you would always double the price of your enemies? You're not able to double the price of your enemies. There's literally, as much as I love you." And it really does show the relationship between Tyrion and Bronn that they've built up as the seasons have gone by. As much as they truly do like each other, and he really does like him. In the end, like Lord Varys, like everyone else, they have to look out for their own needs. And he basically tells them, "Listen, you could literally promise me the whole of Westeros. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter what you could possibly become. We're talking about the Mountain. Someone who is just brutal at killing people. If I fail, not only do you lose, but I'm dead. So I gotta walk away from this." And it's completely understandable in this context, the way they set it up, that in this situation, yes, as much as Bronn loves Tyrion, you do feel like, yes, he would turn on him. So that happens, and then the rest of the episode happens, and then we get a visit from Lord Martell. And what does Lord Martell have to say? But you know what? I'm looking for justice. Tyrion, at this point, he's completely broken. The fact that Bronn left him to do what he did is just, nope, I can't handle it. I'm gonna die. Cersei's gonna love this. And Martell tells him a story, and you could tell it really does move Tyrion. But as soon as he's finished, he's like, "Listen, I came here looking for justice, and it seems if you haven't forgotten, you remember, Martell's looking for revenge against the Mountain. The Mountain is in King's Landing. Here is his chance to get his revenge." So you see the development there, and you see just the start of something new. So there's going to be this new alliance, basically, between Martell and Tyrion. And I really do hope it goes somewhere, because they're giving us hope. They're giving us hope for a decent character. And hope for a decent character is never a good thing, because if Ned Stark has taught us anything, if any of the good characters who have lost their heads in this Game of Thrones have taught us anything, it's that quality and goodness doesn't count at all. And the fact that Littlefinger pops up in the end just to expound that makes it all the more, not important, all the more true? Let's go with important. Important seems like the right word. Makes it all the more important in this world that we have it and that we hope for the best for these characters. Because really, I don't think anyone wants to see Peter Dinklage go. Even if as good a quality of a story as this with George R.R. Martin and all of his writers, I honestly think that if they got rid of Peter Dinklage, they would be losing one of their strongest characters, and they literally cannot afford to kill him. Ned Stark, you can afford to kill him. He was as nice and good as he was. He wasn't underhanded and saucy enough. He wasn't colorful enough to draw the audience into him as much as he was noble and honorable. Nope. But maybe, just maybe, the help of an underhanded character like Martell will keep Tyrion's head on his shoulders, and I hope so. I pray so. So moving on to Daenerys, we go back to Meereen. Daenerys is she's finished her day, like you always do. You go to work, you go home, you just want to relax, and who is waiting for her in her room but Dario. Dario's there, and he's got a handful of flowers, and he's like, I got these from an island that I swam all the way to. She's like, don't, just stop. I don't want to hear about it. He's like, look, I like you, and I like killing people. Here in Meereen, I can't kill people, and you don't like me. She's like, listen, there are thousands of women around that you could easily pursue. He's like, I don't want thousands of women, I want you. And she orders him to strip. Did they sleep together? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that as much as he tries, Dario is more of an amusement to her than anything else. He doesn't strike me as a serious lover to her. I mean, he could win 1,000 pitch battles for her. I don't think she would. I think she sees the value of having him all around and keeping on his good side. But I honestly don't think that she would ever actually give herself fully to him, even in a physical or loving or spiritual or personal, I guess is the word, not spiritual. Even in a physical or personal sense, I do think that she wants to kind of keep him happy, but at an arm's length. And let's see. After that, you're like, oh, what is going on here? And then cut back. He walks out. He's buttoning up his shirt. And Ser Jorah walks in. He's like, what just happened? She's like, don't worry about it. We have bigger problems to deal with. I've sent him to go and take back the city from the Masters. And they're going to slaughter all of them. And Jorah's like, listen, you need to listen to what we have to say. You have to look at sparing people, right? You can't just go and slaughter all the Masters. All the people know, all the slaves that you freed know is brutality, and you need to break that cycle. And just slaughtering all the Masters is not going to break that cycle. There is good, and basically what happened in the last episode gets expounded in this one. For those of you who don't know, the last episode, Daenerys is playing Queen of Meereen, and people are coming to her. Someone's like, yeah, your dragons burned up my entire herd of goats. She's like, you'll be paid 3 times what the goats earn. And then one of the nobles comes to her, one of these supposedly hated slavers. And he's like, please, can I take down the body of my father so that I can give him a proper burial? And there's no politics behind it. There's nothing like that. It's just someone looking to do right by their father. And it really shows you the human side of this character. And at that moment, everything changes, because these people are no longer your enemies. They're people. You're not, and if you're going to be the queen of an entire group of people, you can't just be the queen of the slaves. You have to be the queen of everyone and realize that everyone has certain needs within this hierarchy, and that your actions cannot just be, I'm deciding this and move on. No, your actions have consequences that you're going to have to deal with, and then in dealing with that, those actions are going to have consequences, and it's a perpetual rolling cycle. It's a ball that continues to roll on, and you need to know in which direction you're going to go. Otherwise, things are going to become absolutely unmanageable. So Jorel basically says that it's nice to paint your enemies as completely evil, and that yourself is completely good. But there's good and evil on both sides, and when there are good actions in people and there are bad actions in people. And when they're finally wrapped up together, that's your ball of humanity that as a ruler you have to deal with. It was hinted at in the last episode and it was expounded in this one. And I think Daenerys is starting to understand that, because she says, listen, I'm willing to spare whoever is willing to come over to our side. But they either have to learn to live with our new world or to die in their old one, because slavery is something that I'm going to abolish. She's basically become Abraham Lincoln. So she's like, listen, we're going to just, slavery is a terrible thing. We're going to get rid of it by hook or by crook. So they're either going to join us or die. That is the way it's going to be. They have to realize that they have to stop doing evil if they want to be good. And it does show, yes, she is a firm, she has the firm hand that she needs, and that as long as she listens to the counsel around her, because she says, go tell Daria that you changed my mind. As long as she has her counsel around her to push her in the right direction, I do think she's going to make a wonderful, wonderful ruler. Who knows? She might even institute democracy. I'm very interested in Daenerys' subplot, and I do wish to see where it goes. We get Arya and the Hound. They're killing people. They come upon like just a completely destroyed village, and they talk to just a regular person, and it really hammers home, you know what? Regular people in this world, their lives suck. Because they just, whatever happens to them is just terrible. Like, you've got people raping your wives and killing you and taking your grain, and everything you work for is just gone at the point of somebody's sword. So they meet this guy. He's just dying there, and they have a nice little chat with him about what it is, about what fair trade is. This episode really was about fairness and justice, and what is fair and what is just, except of course for the last 10 minutes. And it really did hammer that point home. The last one was about what it means to be just. This episode is about fairness and justice and what is right. So not Daenerys. So Arya and the Hound, like, they get attacked by these two people who are after the price on the Hound's head. The Hound kills one of them. Arya kills the other one because apparently he was someone who was friends with someone who promised to fuck her with a broom. I can't remember exactly what the charge was, but Arya kills him. She and the Hound are becoming very, very alike. But so they're sitting down. They have a nice little moment. They're basically talking to each other. You know what? It becomes. You know what? It's no longer the Arya is the prize to be exchanged for silver at the end of the trip. At this point, the Hound realizes, you know what? This might be more. I might be doing more trouble than all the silver in Westeros. This might really be bad for me. And at that point, Arya goes and basically starts to pick up the pieces. That they basically reveal themselves to each other as, you know what, we are two people alone here in the world. Well, you know what? Just because we're alone doesn't mean we can't be alone together. So in a nice little moment, they come together. I think they're starting to become friends. If it's not the end of their subplot, it's at least the beginning of the end of their subplot, because it's gone on forever, and I do think she needs to reach the Vale. Podrick and Podrick and Brienne, they meet up at that tavern where, if you recall, they sold that fat boy who was the baker to the innkeeper there. The those people in the last episode, in the last season, that tried to kill the Hound and then didn't. They can bring people back to life. I don't know if you remember who they are, but I kind of do. So basically, they mentioned that they're looking for Sansa Stark, and Podrick's like, you know what? That might not be wise, because people don't like the Starks. We need to kind of keep a low profile. And then basically the baker boy comes and he's like, yeah, I don't know about Sansa, but I do know about Arya. And here, give her this wolf that I baked for her, if you find her. And that basically gives them the clue that they need to head off to the Vale, to the Eyrie. So hopefully, that puts them on the right track, and they get there in time to save poor Sansa, because end of the episode. Unfortunately, it seems that Sansa's luck might have run out, and I hate to say this, but just the vibe that I got from Joffrey's death is just no. It's just, if the Littlefinger is a creep, okay? Let's face it. He is the creepiest creep that ever creeped. And his whole plan this whole time has just been, how do I get Sansa alone with me so that I can marry her and then fuck her brains out, because I loved her mother and she is the consolation prize. So what essentially happens is, like, a little plot goes down between Sansa and her cousin, the Lord of the Vale. She basically, like, it's snowing and she's having fun in the snow. She's like building a little snow castle and everything is wonderful. And it's a nice little moment, and it's like, oh, this is so nice. And then, like, you hear like the dramatic music coming, and you're like, ah, fuck, this is gonna get ruined. So the Lord of the Vale comes, and then he goes and he essentially kicks her snow castle over after they fight, when he knocks down a piece of it, and then she slaps him basically for doing that. And then Littlefinger shows up after he runs away and decides, you know what, I'm going to comfort Sansa and then I'm going to kiss her. I really didn't want it to go like this, but that plot line is just getting creepier and creepier and creepier, and finally it's born the sinister fruit that I always feared it would. Sorry, camera cut out. So, as soon as that happens, her Aunt Lysa, Lady Lysa, sees Littlefinger kiss Sansa, and what does she happen to do in this situation? Does she round on Peter, the man she married, the one who was cheating on her? No, absolutely not. He can do no wrong whatsoever in her eyes. What does she do instead? She opens the moon gate and literally almost throws Sansa out, until Littlefinger comes and essentially stops her from doing it, and subsequently pushes her out instead. So Lysa falls to her death, and now, oh horror of horrors, Sansa is alone with Littlefinger. And when I say alone, I mean really and truly alone. No one else knows she's there, with the exception of a crazy little kid whom she happened to slap and doesn't like her. And I just have such a foreboding sense that those screams of ecstasy that we heard on Aunt Lysa's wedding night are going to become Sansa's screams of agony. And if I honestly do not think I would be able to watch it happen. I like Sansa as a character, to the point where I don't think I could physically, even though I know it's not real, I don't think I would be able to watch Littlefinger ravage her. I mean, it's just, I just couldn't. You know what? I've never told anyone this story, but I'm going to tell it to you now. I'm putting it out there on the internet. 10 or 15 years ago, there was a series of books called, oh, what was it? Hang on. Dominion Boards. Sovereign Stone. Yes, it was called the Sovereign Stone Trilogy. It's 3 books: Well of Darkness, Guardians of the Lost, and Journey into the Void. And Guardians of the Lost, Chapter 12. There is a brutal, brutal rape scene between the Tan, which are a race of lizard-like warrior creatures, and just a 16-year-old girl that they happen to capture. And I was 12 at the time, and when I read it, I literally threw the book across the room, and I did not pick it up for a week. The book became overdue, and then I renewed it. But when I picked it up, I finished reading it, and I've read the series twice. But in the 2 times that I've read the series, after that, I've never read Chapter 12. I've read Chapter 11, up to Chapter 11, and I've read Chapter 13 and onwards. I can't read Chapter 12 because I know what's there. And I know that if I read it, just everything that was there, that I felt, all the horror and disgust will just rise up back, and I can't do it. I can't do it. And I have the same thing that applies there, where I can't read Chapter 12. The premonition that I have of what's going to happen to Sansa because of Littlefinger, I can't do it. I can't watch it happen. If it does happen, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to skip forward in the series, and never see that scene. If I'm watching it and I see Littlefinger open the door to her bedroom and close it and lock it, I'm sorry, I'm not watching that scene. I'm skipping past it. I can deal with what happens after that. Like, I could deal with the emotional trauma after that. I could deal with the horrible, horrible buildup that's been going on to this point. I could deal with that. I can't physically do it. It's not in my nature. I can't watch that happen to a character I care about. I couldn't watch that happen to a person in fake life or real life. I can't do it. It just isn't. Okay? I'm not going to do it. It's just territory I don't want to tread again. So that's essentially how the entire episode ends. The episode ends on Lady Lysa falling to her death out of the moon door, and now Sansa is alone with him. And I feel extremely strongly about it, which is why I had the reaction I did at the beginning of this video, because as soon as the credits started rolling, I turned on the camera just to try and talk about this and hold it together to this point. So that's been my review of Mockingbird, and now let's talk about some comments. So the last comment that was made on Game of Thrones was by Derek Taylor. He said, this was on first of his name, because I didn't make one last week, but first of his name, "Get real, man. It's cable. There are rape murders on a daily basis. It's war. Men rape women during the Gulf War. Men are raping women now in the armed service. I'm not condoning rape. I'm just being real. You sound like a weak-minded kid." Well, Derek, you're entitled to your opinion. However, you're correct. Rape is happening everywhere around us. It's happening right now to some poor girl on some street somewhere. Will they slit her throat afterwards? Hopefully. But it's not a subject that people like to deal with. It's not a subject that people like to talk about. It's a bad enough subject to happen in real life. To anyone, even if you don't know who they are, even if you don't know that it's happening. It is a terrible, terrible thing. But I have to say this. when people watch shows on television or shows on the internet or shows wherever, it's escapism. They're trying to escape from the real world into a virtual one, one where their mind can wander free and explore the stories and just relax. Now, while Game of Thrones is something in which rape and murder does occur, it's not something that people want to see, especially in their escapism. It's also something that's been avoided for quite some time. There were brief glimpses of it in the first season with the Khaleesi and Khal Drogo, with Daenerys and Khal Drogo. There were brief glimpses of it there, but it wasn't dwelt upon. We moved on from that in a very strange way, where it became part of. It stopped being forced and it became willing. So it was almost not. It's very strange to say that rape became not rape, but it's that in itself is an extremely gray area that we don't really see in the show. Maybe in the books it's different, but in the show I don't know. It's only in this particular season that we really focused heavily on it. Like all throughout the other ones, when Sansa was getting stripped in the middle of the court and they were going to terribly beat her, Tyrion waltzed in right at the last second and stopped it from happening. What was it? When she was captured by that angry mob that was trying to stone Joffrey, the Hound grabbed her literally right before it happened, and saved her again. When they were basically like, we're going to fuck you with a broom handle, that was stopped by Tywin Lannister riding up and being like, you know what, you shouldn't be using rats to chew through these people. So that was a lucky stop. And then she's had the Hound with her to stop that from. I mean, the subject of rape really and truly has only been truly shown in this season specifically and grotesquely, as really in a way that even for HBO is over the top. I don't like watching it in this series. I don't like watching it in movies. I don't like watching it in anything. As I mentioned in my review of, what was it, 300. As good of a movie as that is, there's an 8-minute rape scene. And it is brutal. It is a hard sit. As good as that movie is, that makes it a very hard sit. Okay, so that's all I have to say on that subject. I hope you come back and comment again. Let's see. The other comment that we have is from Don Cornelius on Breaker of Chains. It's, got to love how feminists all over the internet are outraged by the Game of Thrones rape scenes in this past Sunday. But remain silent regarding Theon Greyjoy's torture last season when he got his dick frickin' cut off. Spare me your selective moral outrage, internet, because most of you are hypocrites if you're saying you are for gender equality. Man hurt doesn't matter cause male privilege. Shit like this is why feminism is useless to men. Well, I have to disagree with you. Feminism is not useless to men because feminism is about equality between men and women. And quite frankly, even though it means sacrificing a lot of these imagined privileges that men have, gender equality can only be good between men and women. However, this comment is not about what we just talked about. It's actually about his anger at Theon. Now, in terms of Theon Greyjoy, let's remember one thing. He burned 2 children to death. He went and he burned 2 farm children to death because he couldn't bear to go back to Winterfell and face the fact that he hadn't caught Bran. Okay? Let's remember that. And the torture that he went through was essentially fan service for that. It's like, here's this horrible person having such horrible, horrible things happen to him. And while I don't condone what happened to him, no, not at all, because Ramsey is a terrible, terrible character. It was meant to be balancing out, and it was meant, that scene was actually meant to make the audience feel uncomfortable. The series of tortures that Theon went through is meant to make the audience feel uncomfortable. The same way that what we just talked about previously is meant to make the audience feel uncomfortable on the subject. And it actually gets people talking about it, like we're doing now. So, am I outraged? Not particularly. And the reason why is because nobody liked Theon for what he did. There's no one that you could say who liked Theon. However, what the torture did is it didn't make us like Theon, but it redeemed us. It made us feel sorry for Theon. So what's happened is the torture that Theon has gone through has moved his character from we hate him to we feel sorry for him. Now we're interested in seeing what happens to him next. Now, I'm not saying that you're wrong for liking Theon. I would never say that. Game of Thrones is a series where you pick the plot line, right? They don't say, here's the main plot line, here's everything else that's going on, just follow it. No. This is one where you can pick and choose whatever you want, and then you just move on with it. And then everything else is side plot for you. I picked Daenerys, you picked Theon. We go our separate ways, right? But it really and truly was, and I feel like I'm restating myself, Theon's plot, there really wasn't a way to drive it forward with us just hating him. I mean, if you compare it to Joffrey had to die. You would have outraged the fans if Joffrey not only lived, but got to continue to be terrible, 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 terrible. Right? So it was very good. So I celebrated Joffrey's death just like everybody else on the internet. And really, the only way to redeem Theon's character would not be to make him start to do good things, because no, he still burned 2 children to death. No, it would have to be to put him in such a position that makes him so low and so... It would be... It's literally like... distraction, right? Ramsay Snow is the not distraction, the decoy. That's the word. Ramsay Snow is the decoy for us to funnel our hatred to. So instead of focusing all of our hatred on Theon for what he did, betraying the Starks, burning 2 children to death, all that shit. Instead, now we hate Ramsay for doing what he did to Theon. And now we feel sorry for Theon, and now we get to become closer with the character because of that. So while the torture of him was terrible, and it is, and you're right, it is an outrage that no one is talking about it, or almost no one is talking about it, I do feel that it was necessary in order to push him forward as a character, whereas all the grotesqueness of the rape scenes that we saw was simply being grotesque. It didn't serve any particular purpose other than to make the audience feel uncomfortable. So those have been the comments, and I hope that you leave a whole bunch more. Like, favorite, subscribe. If you made it to the end of this video, you are awesome. You are super, super awesome. And I hope that you come back next week, and I hope to see you again, and we get to talk about Game of Thrones, because I love the show. And clearly you love the show if you watched it. And hopefully we can keep doing this, and I will see you next time. Remember, the subscribe button is around here somewhere. Toodaloo.